Hey everybody, welcome back to my modern homestead. If you don't already know, my name is Janet, and I'm going to go ahead and apologize for the lighting. It has gotten late in the day. Pardon me. I got up this morning with the intentions of canning chili. Then I checked the hurricane forecast. I wasn't super worried about it. Not that I'm super worried about it. Okay, so I'm nervous about it now. But anyway, I wasn't super worried about it this morning because it might be a Category 3 time it gets to where we are in Georgia. Maybe a tropical storm, low Category 1. Well, then I checked the storm forecast this morning for my husband because he's in South Carolina with a truck, and things looked a lot different. And the image I looked at had the eye coming very close to us where we are living. Of course, by this evening, that has changed. Kind of, thank goodness, because now it's going to the east side of the state. But then that means that's going over my friends and family from my hometown. Anyway, the whole point of what I'm trying to get to is I got up to can chili and that didn't happen because I had to go do preparations really fast. The last minute things we always do when we have a storm coming through and we know we're going to lose power. And even though the hurricane is not coming over us, and right now it's not projected to come, the eye is not projected to come close to us, we have still been warned about major power outages. So anyway, anytime a hurricane comes through for years now, I always have this nervous energy I've just got to do something with, and I always can. So that's what we're doing today. I'm going to go ahead and can my chili. Sorry about my hair. I just threw it up so I could do stuff. And please pardon my kitchen. I've still got stuff just sitting around where we've been gathering up stuff today. And anyway, let's get over to the stove and take a look at what we're going to do. Okay, today I'm using our venison that we processed ourselves. If you don't have venison, don't want to use venison, you go right ahead and use ground beef. And today I am doing 2 pounds. And this actually got water in it when I was thawing it out. I guess there was a little hole in it somewhere, but that's okay. That water will cook out. So there's the 1 pound. Let's go ahead and turn this on. And all you're going to do at this point is just brown it up. You're going to make just regular chili. And some people and organizations, we call it the canning police. And if you're part of the canning police, don't come after me. I'll go ahead and tell you myself. This is not an approved recipe. It is said you cannot can chili, but can't can chili. You can can ground beef. And chili is not as dense as ground beef. So why can't you can chili? I don't know. I can chili. I've always canned chili way before I knew you couldn't can chili. So if you like to do things right by the book, don't do this recipe because it's not tested or approved. All right, so let's just brown this up and we'll be right back. And while I'm browning up the meat, I just thought we would chit chat just a second. I am doing chili because if the power goes out, this makes for a really easy heat and eat meal. And before the power was ever expected to go out, I was going to can this anyway because I wanted to can some without beans to make like a hot dog sauce. But now with a good chance of power going out, I'm going to go ahead and do it with the beans to make a meal. So if you would like to do chili without the beans, you can do it this exact same way. Just leave the beans out. And the handle is sticky. What in the world? I just washed it. So Anyway, that's why we're doing chili for this hurricane canning session. And as far as not canning it, we're not supposed to can chili. I made fun of it, but I really, honestly, just don't get it. Chili is less dense than plain ground beef that you would can. It's less dense than a jar of beans you would can. You can meat at 75 pounds pressure for a pint. You can beans at 75 pounds pressure for a pint. You can soup that's got all those ingredients in it, which granted, chili is more dense than just soup. But to combat that somewhat, you can leave extra liquid in your chili. You can add tomato juice, or you can just add a little water to it to loosen it. And when you're ready to eat it, just cook it a few extra minutes and cook that water out. Problem solved. Easy peasy. So that, my friends, is why I'm fine canning chili. It doesn't bother me. It didn't bother me before, obviously. So anyway, but seriously, if you're one that likes to do it by the book, don't do this recipe. Just go on to the next video because you won't be happy with this one. I can promise you. And I won't mind. I won't get mad. I won't be offended. Not one single bit. It's your kitchen. You do what you have to do. So there we go. Let's get this meat drained and we'll get busy with the rest. Okay, now I need this eye where the meat is cooking for the canner. So what I'm going to do is put this meat into this stock pot carefully. Try not to spill it everywhere. Okay, now what we're going to do is add a can of white beans. I normally like to use the cannellini beans, which is white kidney beans, and a light red kidney bean per pound of meat. But if you just want to use all red, all white, whatever you would like to use, that's just fine. Just make sure you use 2 of these 15.5 ounce cans of beans per pound of meat. Normally, I would drain, Normally, I would drain the beans, but this, because I'm making it soupy anyway, I'm not draining them. Just put them in just like this. If you would like to drain yours, that is perfectly fine with me. You go right ahead. So there's 2 cans, but because I have 2 pounds of meat, I need 4 cans of beans. Okay, here's our last can of beans. And then for each pound of meat, you need this size can of tomatoes, undrained. I use the diced tomatoes, and this is the 28 ounce can. So 2 of those. All right. Then for each pound of meat, you want to use at least 3 tablespoons of chili spice. If you don't have a homemade spice, use the packets. You would use 1 whole packet per pound of meat. And normally I don't measure this. I just pour it in till the color looks right. But for the sake of the video, I will. So there's 1. But I'll tell you a little secret. I often use way more than 3 tablespoons to get the right flavor. There's 3. 4. And if you would like a homemade chili spice, that is also on my channel. Look up in the corner, your right hand corner, and you will find my chili spice there. What was that, 5? Lost track. And this one is a little bit lighter because I goofed, you guys. I accidentally added flour to it. There's not enough that I'm worried about canning with it. Just being all sorts of rebel tonight. I promise that wasn't intentional. Okay, so let's just give it a good mix. We're going to turn it on medium, let it get warm, and let it do its thing while I get the canner ready. I'm going to go ahead and put water in the canner and heat it up because this chili will be going into jars warm. So we want to put warm chili into warm water, not cold water. And we will be adding some liquid to this, but for right now, we're just going to let it do its thing. As always, I'm starting with 3 inches of water in the canner. It's usually this bowl and about a half. I like to keep my ruler in there so I can see the water level as it rises. Right there at 3, wasn't even a half of another bowl. So let's get our chili into jars. Okay, now if you have hard water, don't forget to take your ruler out first of all, but don't forget to pour in a good splash of white vinegar. That will keep your jars from getting a buildup on them. And you want a little bit in a small bowl to use for wiping the rims of your jars. Okay, now if you're just going to eat chili, your chili is done once it comes up to a boil and simmers for a few minutes. Completely done, ready to eat. But because we're canning it, we're going to add a little bit of water to it. Make it just a little bit soupier. Just remember, when you're ready to eat it, cook it for a little while to cook off the excess water. And if you taste it, I normally go by smell and looks and taste, but right now, because of, that C virus, I cannot taste very well and I cannot smell very well. So I don't know about either of those factors with this chili. Hopefully by the time we're ready to eat it, hopefully it's not tomorrow, maybe we can keep power. Hopefully when we're actually ready to eat it, I can taste it and know that it's okay. If not, I'll just have to depend on the family. So let's let this come up to a boil and then we'll put it in the jars. While this was coming up to a boil, I just happened to be looking through my ball book and there is actually a recipe for chili in here. It calls for 5 pounds of ground beef, 2 cups of chopped onions, 2 cloves of garlic, 6 cups of canned tomatoes with juice, chili powder. Y'all, I really think even though we got beans in here, I think we're okay. What do you think? I think we're okay. I don't think we're gonna, it's not the official recipe, so I can't say it's okay for you to do it. But it's okay for me to do it in my kitchen. I'm just showing you what I'm doing. You have to do your own research. Never take anybody else's word for it. But anyway, all of these soups in here with meat, they say to fill the jar to 1-inch headspace. So when we're ready to can this, that's what we're going to do with ours. Okay, this is just now coming up to a boil. So what we're going to do is give it about 5 minutes to let the tomatoes and the beans heat up, and then we'll be ready. Oh, could this be any easier? All right, let's get this canned up. Let's just do one jar together for me to show you. Get a good mix of the liquid and the solids. If you have a canning funnel, these are wonderful to keep you from making a mess on your jars. So there we go. 1-inch headspace. I'm going to move the funnel over to this jar. Let's wipe the rim. I've got a little bowl of vinegar. I know it's hard for you to see. Let's sit it here. I'm going to dip paper towel into it gently. You don't want it sopping wet. And just go around the rim of the jar. Make sure there's a little bit of sauce on it. Just make sure you get everything off. Then we're going to take a lid. Just like so. I'm picky about how my lids are lined up on my jars. And then, oh, that's hot. It doesn't want to go on, y'all. Here we go. Usually you don't have to hold the jar, but just make it finger tight, not super tight, not super loose. And I did not debubble because this is so liquidy. I'm okay. It's okay. If you want to debubble, you go right ahead. So let's finish the rest of the jars. Okay, we are done with our last jar. Well, we're done filling it. I'm going to leave just a little bit so that we can have lunch tomorrow or supper or whatever. And we don't have to open a jar and do all that fancy stuff. So, put a lid on it and a ring on it. Okay, here we go. Last jar. Make a little room. Move over, guys. Make room. We're coming in. And voila. So 3, 6, 8 pints. I'm good with that. So let's get the lid on. I have an arrow. Where is it? Right there. And a notch. We're going to line those up. And then put up the wing nuts. But don't lock them down because you need to check the lid to make sure it's as even as it can be all the way around. You can tighten them just a little bit, but not all the way down because you might need to adjust. I almost always have to adjust. And if I had finished canning what's in the pot, we probably would have had 10 pints. And I think that's excellent for our 2 pounds of meat that we did for the chili. I think we're good. So now what we'll do is turn this the rest of the way up and let steam start coming out of the vent pipe. And when we have steam coming out of there, we will vent it for 10 minutes. Okay, we have steam coming out. So what we're going to do is vent it for 10 minutes and then put on the weight. All right, let's put the weight on. Where I live, I'm using 10 pounds of pressure. Adjust for your altitude. So when this comes up to pressure, we will can it for 75 minutes. Okay, the timer is about to go off. So what I'm going to do is let my pressure canner I'm just going to slowly turn it down every few minutes. And then when the pressure comes down to 0, we will be able to take off the weight. Okay, everything is off. So when the needle comes down and rests on this metal post on the dial, then we will take the weight off. Once it actually comes down to here, I usually leave it for 5 or 10 extra minutes just to let it finish cooling down. And if this makes a lot of noise when I lift it up, I just wait, give it 5 more minutes, and I just keep doing that until it doesn't make a lot of noise. Alrighty, friends. You can see that the pressure has come down and the needle is resting on that metal post. So let's see if we can get the weight off. There's still a lot of noise, so I'm going to give it a few more minutes and hopefully the heat will come down and there won't be so much steam coming out of there. Let's try it again. There we go. A little bit of noise, but that's okay. So now what we're going to do is leave this for about 10 more minutes, and then we will prop open the lid with some pot holders. Okay, there we go. We have our lid propped open, and we'll leave it for about 5 minutes. Make sure when you lift this lid off that you lift and open away from yourself, because there is still hot air, hot steam, down in there, and you don't want that in your face or on your arms. Okay, my friends, let's get this out, or let's get these jars out of the canner. I'm sorry, it's late, I'm sleepy. Let's get the jars out of the canner and move them to the cooling table. There we go, my friends. We have our 8 pints of Helene chili. You all, I pray for everyone in the path of this storm. Pray God's protection over each and every one of you. Pray that it's not bad here, and that my family and friends in the path of the storm, that God holds you near and dear and covers you in His arms of protection. Thank you all so much for joining me. Until we meet again, everyone, may you be blessed. Love you guys. Bye-bye.